It does not appear that there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
The morning commuter train sent blood and metal flying. Ambulances rushed more than 1,000 wounded to city hospitals.
And there's a kid with a trench coat and a shotgun throwing pipe bombs in the parking lot, and then he shot a girl outside.
Many grow up experiencing the world through the media we consume.
أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله.
But how much of the world are we actually exposed to?
حي على السلام.
Islamophobia is really the fear of Islam as a religion. That's sort of the classic definition of Islamophobia. However, I do believe that Islamophobia extends beyond just the fear of the religion, but also of a region and a culture as well. So, and also of the people who live in who follow that culture and live in a certain region.
I don't really know anything about Muslims, I guess.
Islam is a religion. The Quran, I believe, is their holy text. I don't know too much about it.
I wouldn't say I know too much. I haven't read any of the Quran or anything like that, so relatively not that much.
No, I don't know much about their religion, the people themselves.
A little bit. Just learning about it in my propaganda class right now. Actually, we're just talking about 9/11 and the Taliban and stuff, so we're just getting into what Muslims really are and their religion and stuff.
My name is Islam Hassan, and my religion is Islam. The same as my name. Well, I mean, if you open the TV or listen to the radio, I mean, there's a lot of stereotype things going on and off, and you know, I don't want to say we got used to it, but you know, some people like you today would like to know a little bit about Islam. They would come down and ask questions and see what it's all about. Some people don't like to do that, and they'd rather be on the negative side always and you know, promote these stereotype things. But you know, I see it, you know, Islam is a religion that, you know, over 1.6 billion people adhere to it. It's not going to be affected by whoever say whatever. It's not really something that is annoying to us.
I think you're right to raise the question about the media, because the media does tend to portray it as a Muslim issue in the United States, which is both ahistorical and doesn't even accurately represent terrorism today. We forget that the largest single terrorist attack in the United States prior to 9/11 was carried out by a Christian extremist, Timothy McVeigh. There's nothing new about terrorism coming out of any major religious tradition. The Ergun and Stern gangs, part of the liberation of Palestine, or creation of Israel, were arguably terrorists. So terrorism is a function of extremism, not of any particular religious faith. You've got something like 1.6 billion Muslims on the planet, and the largest estimate of the number of actual terrorists coming out of that population that I've ever seen is under 100,000. So we're not talking, it is an extremism, not a religious issue in terms of as an honest portrayal, but American media portrays the things that make sense to Americans.
The Islamic faith is part of the Abrahamic faith. We believe in the Lord of Abraham. We believe in all of the previous messengers, as they were messengers sent by God. We cannot isolate or degrade or draw cartoons of any of them. We don't do that like people do to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. We respect them, honor them, and we consider ourselves we're not missing anything. People who do follow Jesus, we follow Jesus too. We believe Jesus came to this earth to tell us to worship the one true God, and that's what he clearly says in different parts of the Bible.
I know that the Islamic faith is pretty peaceful compared to maybe other faiths, and I know there are extremists in every religion. So when people talk about being like, oh, all Muslims are jerks and whatever, I don't really pay attention to that.
I feel it'd be ignorant for me to say that I know anything, and I feel that I have as much knowledge as the next person you would ask. but I don't let that dictate how shitty of a person I am, what have you.
I do. I grew up around a lot of Muslims. I know that the Islamic faith does not endorse anything that is violence related. I know that Muslims are very kind people. They are very giving. Yeah.
Well, I know a lot about Muslims since I'm one, and I grew up in a Muslim country. I've been surrounded by Muslims. Like, as they say, the perfect Islam is the one in the middle. It's not extremist and it's not strict. Like not strict, and it's not like loosen up and do whatever you want. It's the correct one, and this is how I grew up, and this is how I got educated.
I wouldn't say that I know a lot about Islam and Muslims, but I know they're the people who want us dead, so.
Part of it is just backing up and looking at the rhetoric of how we define terrorism, right? If we look at what's going on institutionally to certain marginalized groups in the United States, that's a form of terrorism, but we don't necessarily frame it that way, right, in terms of terrorism. So I think there's sort of institutional terrorism, there's structural terrorism, there's military terrorism. What distinguishes a terrorist act versus a military act?
Terrorism. Corporations that use violence to reach some political goals.
Absolutely. I think Islamophobia has become less of a stereotype, but more of a fear. So in that sense, it's sort of anything that people in Europe or North America disagree with, or anything that they see as something that creates violence or something that they see as the other, has become a form of fear towards those kinds of people who follow the Islamic faith.
I do not know much about the Muslim or the Quran or much of that business, but some of what they're doing is very, very wrong.
Scary. Terrorism is scary to me. I think of 9/11.
Not gonna lie, Middle East.
Saddam Hussein, 9/11.
Like a lot of destruction, buildings blowing up, stuff like that. Like really bad stuff.
Terrorism when somebody comes into our country that's not American and they just sneak in, I guess.
Muslims, Arabs, I guess. Kind of messed up. Taliban.
When we think about the Ku Klux Klan, we don't think of the Ku Klux Klan as representing all Christians, and yet we often make that shortcut with Muslims, right? That we think of terrorists and terrorists all being Muslim.
I have no idea what the difference between a Muslim and a Middle East person is.
I couldn't tell by looking at them, but other than that, I probably wouldn't know.
I actually do not know the difference between a Muslim and Middle East.
That's a tough one. Honestly, I'm not quite sure, you know.
A Muslim is a follower of the Islamic faith, and a Middle Eastern person is a person who lives in the Middle East. They could maybe follow the Christian faith or Jewish faith, or not follow any faith at all.
Middle Easterns they're not only Muslims, they're Christians, Jews, and Shiite Muslims, and Sunni Muslims, and even atheists. The Middle Eastern doesn't really mean Muslim.
I don't feel like it's a helpless fight, you know, to change what people think. I just don't know what we can do to do it, you know.
It's definitely not a helpless fight because people can change their minds in a day. You think about something one day, all of a sudden you think about something else the next. Definitely, it's never a hopeless fight for anyone.
We never heard any Muslim. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was made fun of, he was mocked at his character, at his people drew cartoons of him. You will never see a single Muslim around the world coming up with a cartoons mocking Prophet Jesus. You will never see that. And this is the difference.